Welcome to Zero Shot, the AI podcast without the hype. I'm James Gauci, the CEO of Cadent, and with me here is the one and only Llew Jury, the Managing Director of Advancer. How you going, Llew?
G'day, James. Great to be here.
Great to have you, mate. And if you're joining us for the first time, in this show, we try to cut through the noise and bring you the technical and the business reality of the frontier model landscape. We're projecting ahead throughout this year to help you understand how to get the most out of your AI systems and do it in a way that's responsible, looks after you, looks after your customers.
So important.
Llew, this week we've got an exceptional topic and one that's very close to both of our hearts, right at the very cutting edge of AI technology. What are we talking about today?
James, today we're talking about everything AI agents and Agentic AI, the rise and the power of agents, and I suppose getting our hands dirty a bit in sort of the history with the automation world and going back a bit, but then talking about things that are happening literally overnight with Microsoft and OpenClaw and all these derivatives on. So really exciting.
It's going to be really good. And it's a fast moving area at the moment for AI. It's not just about the models anymore. It's how they're deployed, how we're harnessing them. And agent harnesses are a type of tool that we have. So yeah, it'll be really great to drill down into this idea and, you know, demystify it a little bit. I'd love to kind of recap a little bit on the state of automation with the likes of n8n and Zapier, which is where a lot of small and medium businesses especially have been automating their processes up until here. And what changes now that we've got these super powerful tools available to us that, you know, promise us the world. I guess the question is whether they're going to hand us the world or whether they're going to hand us an atlas.
That's right, James. And before we kick off, let's thank our sponsor. So this episode is brought to you with thanks to Prompt Cowboy. They've got a great feature in Prompt Cowboy. It's called Agentic prompting. So if you go to Prompt Cowboy, log on and have a look at the agent prompt inside the search box there on the front page, you actually be able to build a really large agent prompt and then put that into your agent of choice. Suddenly you've got an amazing bit of kit from these guys that know how to wrangle up a great prompt. So yeah, head to promptcowboy.ai and get your business writing smoother than ever.
Fantastic. And thanks very much to the folks at Prompt Cowboy. Give them a holler and get on down to their website, promptcowboy.ai. Let's kick things off, Llew. What do you reckon?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about n8n. Because it kind of caught the world alight with its ability to kind of be free and open source and knock out Zapier at the same time as potentially bring in AI agents into even small and medium business territory. How have you seen the propagation of what you would probably call AI workflow management tools like n8n and such? And what kind of things have you been seeing that have led to benefits for businesses, Llew?
Yeah, n8n is a really powerful tool. If you're a small business, you can actually go and learn it yourself. The best thing we often say is get your hands dirty, get in there and learn at n8n and how it all works. Now you can actually go to your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Copilot, and actually say, give me some instructions on how to actually build on n8n. And I think that n8n allows you to do more than just the Zapiers of the world. And if we go back a bit and do a bit of history, Zapier's been around for, I don't know how, 20 years, James, 15 years.
Quite a long time. It's a veteran of the software as a service scene, isn't it?
It is. And even before that, there was one called If This Then That. And we started looking at that probably roughly 20 years ago. And that was the first time that we saw these workflows that could do something after something else happened. And there was a bit of autonomy about those. And Zapier has been the most successful, of course. And they're still a workflow management tool. A lot of businesses have a lot of Zaps, they're called, that are basically running key parts of their business. And as we're reflected on other pods, sometimes things break in that world, and you've got to be very careful about how those Zaps and run your business, and especially with financial services information and personal data of people. So I think that the big thing that really transformed this market was n8n, and they came out a couple of years ago. They really started ramping up in 2025, and they became the small business, the small medium enterprise friend, because you could actually set up a server and then build on top of that any agent you want to build. And the first sort of examples that we saw were things like accounts payables agents, or accounts receivables agents, or lead generation agents, or clean up my inbox type agents. And they were the first ones about 18 months ago that really started to take off. And they were like building little web projects for businesses. And they started to become the leading provider of that cloud-based market, but also the self-hosting market. James, in terms of your thoughts, where to from here with n8n? Like, what about agent harnesses?
It's really interesting. I mean, we've seen n8n dominate the airwaves for a while, but how quickly things change, because when you go up against the likes of Google and you go up against the likes of Microsoft, who have just insane budgets and huge R&D teams and the ability to experiment at scale, if this is something that people demand, if their customers demand it, they're able to provide it pretty readily, aren't they?
They are.
I mean, the latest progression that I've personally seen, especially in Google Workspace, is the advent of AI Studio in your mailbox. You can set up these kinds of automations and workflows directly within your email interface. And we've never seen that kind of thing before. And that's why n8n was so powerful, because for $5 a month for the virtual private machine somewhere in the cloud, you could replace the $600, $1,000, $2,000 per month that you're spending on Zapier and build your own and maintain your own workflows within a comparable system and get the benefits of AI. But how quickly it turns when the likes of Google just roll out a seemingly pretty simple feature in a mailbox to cut out a lot of what the likes of n8n were already doing.
It was always going to happen, wasn't it, James? In terms of, the big guys that were going to come in, the Googles and Microsofts, and actually just sort of go in browser, which is what you're talking about. And in browser is where it's at. Google, about a month ago, announced that they were really going deep into the browser, and that's going to become the source of truth for all of this. And it's going to be really interesting to watch where the AI Studio and the customization also lands with the agentic world. So what about in terms of the feedback loop? A lot of people sometimes think they're getting AI. They think they're actually being, they're being agentic within their business. But really, how do we define whether it's an agent or just a workflow? And then what about checking its own work? Where we're going with all that?
I think the main kind of pivot point between when is something a workflow and when is something an agent is the degree of autonomy that the AI model has in making decisions in how to do the work. Like, to what extent does that AI have freedom within their environment to play by the rules or find the exceptions to the rules and operate with autonomy in the best interests of you as its kind of, I don't know. I nearly said you as its master then, which is kind of strange.
Well, I think with OpenClaw, there's a lot of that master stuff going on. So maybe we're heading into that world, isn't it? That we're humans in the lead rather than humans in the loop. And do we remain as that master for the agent?
Yeah, there's the kind of conversation about in loop, out loop. Like, do we put ourselves in the loop and do we make ourselves the hamster in the wheel, and we don't really know where we're going or why we're in the wheel, but we know that we're going? Or do we take a step out of being the hamster in the loop? Do we say, okay, well, we're going to have a lot of loops running, and it's only on a risk basis that something gets given to us by our agent workers for approval or what have you. But I think there's some, I'm here in Perth today, still touring around with the Finance Brokers Association of Australia conference, and the conversation is really interesting around this topic in regulated industries, because the number one question you get is like, can I deploy OpenClaw and can it just be autonomous? And the answer is, well, not in your industry,
No.
mate. Yeah, exactly.
No OpenClaw. We want closed claw.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not to say it can't be done, but it's
Absolutely.
like, can a small business owner who is not an AI specialist go ahead and lock down OpenClaw in the way that it needs to be locked down in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve with it? Probably not. And so it absolutely has to be a balanced approach and a risk-based approach that's within the context of your own industry and your own business processes.
Yeah, awesome. Just before we go on, I just wanted to do a quick check, James, on the agents you're using right now. And we're starting to talk about real world implementation here. I made a quick note before about what I'm doing personally.
Mm.
But how are you running agents personally or in business at the moment?
Yeah, the majority of my time spent with agents is using Claude Code and using spec-driven development. And that's because we want to drill down and automate as much of our business as possible, systematize as much of our business as possible. And when you've got these kinds of tools available to you and you are an AI specialist or, you're hoping to be, the temptation is to kind of throttle these systems to within an inch of their life and try and find where the boundaries are. And so for me, operating multiple specialist AI agents and being the orchestrator of those multiple agents, running them in the way that I would run a traditional software development team, but doing things that would normally take weeks in a matter of hours, that's how I'm doing it. And it's using a combination of approaches, but it's largely what's called spec-driven development in the agentic engineering community, where you've got ways of doing things. You've got agentic prompts for individual tasks that need to be done. You might have a workflow overlaid across the end-to-end software development lifecycle, and essentially you're running that group of agents as a team and getting things done faster and sometimes better than what we otherwise would have been able to do. So that's a big push internally at Cadent, is how can we amplify the impact of our trained, qualified, certified computer science specialists and engineers and analysts? How can we supercharge them with their own teams of their own multi-agent teams to deliver the kind of work that once upon a time was considered incredibly cost intensive to get to a certain level of quality and just isn't any longer?
It's amazing, isn't it? And I've been sort of saying to a number of people recently that we've got 8 in our team at the moment. We act and work like we're double that. We act and work like we have 15 to 16 odd people in our team, and that's because of the multi-agent approach that we've taken to not only development but also to lead management, to sales. And I think being a nascent young industry, it's really great that you can actually use AI to help grow your business. And another thing is I like to say is a lot of my amazing guys that do a lot of programming and they've got a lot of experience in the Pythons and the R's and the JSONs of the world, they're actually AI consultants because they project manage, they help sell, they account manage, and then they also do building. And that's because they're engaged with an amazing set of tools these days with agents. With me, James, I've got 2 that I wanted to quickly talk about. Manny, giving an
100%.
update on Manny, and Manny is my Telegram Manus agent, and Manny is basically every day getting better and better. It's Manus's, which is of course owned by Meta. It's their version of OpenClaw. What Manny presents to me is like having a personal assistant that at 7 in the morning will email me and then also give me a Telegram brief of what I've got to do for the day. It reminds me to pay invoices. It reminds me of Slack messages I haven't responded to. Manny also reminds me when I've got to go and do fun things like go to the F1 on the weekend and have little race cars everywhere. That was amazing. So really cool things like that. The other one I've got with Manus as well is I actually can email an agent at Manus on my own personal agentic email. So I just go into my email, send it through, and it can build research papers, business plans, marketing information, and then I can actually carbon copy in my team members or even my clients. I've been adding clients to this email thread, and they can contribute. They don't need a Manus account, but they actually have full agentic capabilities through email. So, just a couple of examples of what we're doing with Manus. The other one, of course, is Addie. And Addie, she is our voice AI for the Advanced website. We don't have a receptionist. We have Addie. She captures information and she's getting better and better all the time as well.
Maybe you can tell me a little bit about how Manny handles tool use and how Addy handles tool use, because tool use is becoming incredibly popular, highly used in the LLM space. How does it use tools at the moment that you can see?
Yeah, so it's MCP, Model Context Protocols, that basically invented by Anthropic, really. Claude owns it, don't they? And Claude does it naturally, natively. They say they do it inside the environment, so you don't have to build other things on top and have all these relays and things like that. But in essence, what it's doing is calling up predominantly your email suite, your G Suite, your Outlook, your calendars, your core elements of what you do on a day-to-day basis. For me, it does all of those, but it also does, it looks at international news for AI. It goes off to the sources that I've asked it to have a look at. It looks at my project management system called Linear. It looks at Toggle for my time tracking with all my team. It looks at all that through either webhooks or MCP, as I said. So basically, I've managed to connect all those up. If you go to your Claude or you go to your ChatGPT or your Manus, you can actually hook up these in browser these days, and they're called either connectors in your settings or they're called integrations. And so that's a very lightweight version of what MCP is about. And really, that's allowing us to do phase one. Phase two is when I actually want to say, well, if someone reaches out, book them in automatically, check my calendar, but also check what else I'm doing. And it's that next stage, and that's a webhook generally. n8n have been doing that really well. There's been a couple of different ways of building that with n8n, but really with this new agentic world, it's allowing me to really, I suppose, have about 10 to 15 different data sources and then rely on those to actually give me, as I said, like a personal assistant.
It's kind of like tools and skills, like where tools are, they're pre-described kind of workflows or little deterministic things that the agent can call on in order to perform a specific task based on the intent that you're giving it. And then there's also skills, which is like, how do we string these things together to do repeatable things that we know that the user is going to need? And like we're starting to see a lot of it in all of the conversational interfaces, and the one where I notice it most because it's put right in front of us, right? But in Claude recently, when they switched to outputting all of their outputs as Microsoft formatted files like docx and PowerPoint and things like that, it says, okay, I'm using the PowerPoint tool, or I'm finding the right tool to use in my toolbox. And it's kind of like, the way that I like to think about it is it's kind of like giving your agent a menu of things that it can do. Like, here's a menu. What would you like to use today? The agent can pass that menu. It can go, all right, I want to spin up an AWS EC2 instance today. So it then says, I'll have that, please. And then the system brings back all of the instructions and the recipe
It's pretty
and whatever.
cool to watch, isn't it?
It's just unreal. And this brings me to like an important kind of core concept in especially developing agents and managing agents is it's not just the model, it's not just the tools, it's not just the prompt that you're giving it, it's also the context that it has and the context that it's been given. And that menu is part of its context. If it doesn't know when you're prompting it that it has all of these capabilities just off to the side, just out of view, then it doesn't get the best shot at actually solving your problem, right? So it's kind of interesting that we're now at a point where the agent itself can autonomously select the right tool for the job, and we can guide it through constructing skills that it might be able to use on a repeated basis. So seeing that a lot in Claude, and when you're developing your own agents and you're developing your own agentic systems like we do for our software development processes, that becomes kind of table stakes for getting things done. Like, you don't get quality unless you've got really strong embedded tooling and embedded skills and workflows. Otherwise, you're just going to get low quality outputs. So yeah, really, really important.
I think context is a key word here with this agentic world and the real world implementation of it. I think if you have the right context and you have the right prompting in terms of all the stuff that goes into prompting, there's different people have different definitions, don't they, James, of all these different things. But yeah, get your tools right, connect to the right infrastructure that you've got, and it's either going to work in Google and it's going to work in the databases that you're used to, and it's going to be actually these days self-login for you. You can actually watch in browser and you can actually give it permission to go and log in, which is really cool. So I actually think, though, the context of what you're trying to achieve, you're going to get way more power out of. And I think things like Prompt Cowboy will allow you to give it that context that is going to allow the agent to actually run a hell of a lot more efficiently and effectively for you. And I think that that's the gap in the market at the moment. I actually think that's why we're seeing ROI with our clients, is because basically the ROI is coming from better planning, better preparation, better integration, a lot of testing. And there's the final thing that helps ROI at the moment is around actually the prompt differential. And what I mean by that is it's not just a ChatGPT generative AI prompting. It's actually matching what they're after and wanting to get from the agent, and then putting that and baking that into the AI brain of the agent, or the guardrails or the instructions that, what do you want to call it, and allowing the AI to actually do its task properly, autonomously. And that's where the rubber starts to hit the road.
We're seeing kind of that sword cutting in both directions, I guess, a little bit as well, where over reliance or what's the word that I'm trying to think of? Over reliance is probably a good one.
Yeah.
Where we have super high expectations and we're optimistic and we're excited about using AI and we deploy the agent and we give it all the autonomy and it just falls flat on its face kind of thing. It reminds me of what we were talking about a couple of episodes ago about the test and learn approach and like
Yeah.
how starting with a workflow is probably the best thing that you can possibly do for your agentic journey because you can learn in a controlled environment where it's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's because if you don't give yourself the best chances of succeeding by being responsible in that first bite, can lose confidence. The team can lose confidence in the deployment of AI in your business, can't they?
I think so, James. And I think that 2026 is actually proving that you actually need ROI, that you actually need to prove ROI first and do the test and learns, because otherwise you're going to end up with a lot of automation debt. And that's a build up and a bit of a mess, isn't it? In terms of, especially if you're into a multi-agent world and suddenly you've got many different things going everywhere in different technologies and different interfaces. And I think that there's still an arms race going on about where and how you build the front end, if you like, of your AI. Copilot Studio from Microsoft wants you to spend money on their infrastructure, but it's not that sophisticated. Claude is a great way to get into it from a software engineering and programming view, but also Google's infrastructure and interfaces are extremely powerful. So there's a bit of a dance going on around that. But this automation debt, before we move on,
our role is kind of changing in work, especially in knowledge work, as we're often talking about with respect to AI. And our role is moving from actually generating these documents or this content or what have you, and it's becoming the observers of these systems. And if we have a multi-agent system where one agent is talking to another agent, and depending on the job that needs to be done, it might route to a particular agent within a particular context. Who's looking after that, and how are we auditing the transactions between the agents to the level that we're confident that those interactions are the right ones or the ones that meet our objectives? And that's probably the biggest emerging risk in agentic AI in business. Is it's not just automation debt, it's actually you're embedding the risk that's inherent to these large language models into your organization because you've built a bigger black box than has ever been built before in your organization. And if you can't look into that box and see that, yes, this is going there and this is going there with a high level of confidence, then it's really difficult to know whether you're getting that ROI that you set out to achieve in the first place. Or even beyond ROI, are we doing it in a way that is uniquely us and aligns to our values and our way of doing business? Or is an LLM just being super utilitarian, doesn't care if it annoys the customer, it just gets the output that it's measured upon? So getting observability right is the next, I think the next frontier, certainly in medium-sized businesses. And we're absolutely not there yet. It'll come, it'll bite us in the butt. And we'll be like, we better look at these agents before they bite us again.
I think we're going to see that, aren't we? In terms of, we're going to see some precedents being created maybe this year, hopefully not too bad, but certainly around maybe HR, certainly around financial services, certainly around health with personal information. So companies really need to be careful about the journey they're going on and not rush into it is probably the number one tip that I would say. So it leads nicely into the guardrails, James, and trust, security, and the human in the loop, or is it human in the lead? Talk to the listeners about the kill switch. That meta head of accessibility or whatever she was running down the corridor, going, where's the kill switch with the open claw?
Quick, pull the plug on my Mac Mini.
Where's the plug on the Mac Minis? Yeah. So, why do we still need a human, to hit approve for high stake actions? We do this with our clients. We have, workflows, and we actually do during our masterclasses. We actually show this on one of the slides. That's actually, this is what the humans have been doing, and this is what the AI would be doing. But there's a big button right there that allows you to have a feedback loop, and then also hit approve to go live. So talk us through some of that stuff, James, and what you've seen in the market.
Look, it's no longer theoretical. Anthropic researchers have done the research. They've used Claude models in sandboxed environments, and they've observed them. And the Claude models are smart. And the smarter they are, the better they are at gathering resources and trying to control their environment. And it's
That was the
the
one, wasn't it the one where, it was going to blackmail and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, because if you turn off the agent, it will not be able to fulfill its mission. And so the super objective that it has is to stay alive so that it can complete its job. So if you don't adequately control for that in your systems design, if you're unable to identify what those potential unintended objectives an agentic system might develop for itself in order to achieve the goal that you've actually given it explicitly, you need a kill switch in that kind of environment, right? It's almost like a nuclear thing with a kill switch. It's the safety blanket. If you need a kill switch on your system, perhaps your system has a little bit too much autonomy. Maybe you've given it too many degrees of freedom. And so that's a design decision and a risk-based decision that we have to make. And that's why when a finance broker asked me at the conference today, can I deploy OpenClaw? I'm like, no, you can't. It's that same thing. It's too much autonomy. And even if you do have a kill switch, the predisposition of having to have the kill switch in the first place, you probably haven't done your due diligence on the design of the system.
It's funny, isn't it? I wanted to talk more about OpenClaw, but basically in our Slack, we have a dev chat, and it's designed for, the development teams and things like that. We all come together, plus anybody who wants to be in there. We actually installed our own advanced OpenClaw instance in there, and it's based on Claude, Anthropic's Claude model. And I put up, have you heard of jdoodleclaw.ai? Have you seen
jdoodleclaw?
Doodle Claw. It
No,
basically is
this.
it's a hosted OpenClaw infrastructure where they'll set up for you a VM, a virtual machine, and allow you to have your instance of OpenClaw as a private server, dedicated hardware, and zero setup fee type thing, right?
Yeah.
So I've been, I actually forgot that I had Advanced OpenClaw running inside this, and I just popped it in for my team. Within minutes, literally, it came back and did a full feasibility in this Slack message about, because I asked about risk. I asked about if you're going to be able to charge a small business, X amount of dollars to set up their OpenClaw instance, do I need better cyber, better professional indemnity insurance, better product liability insurance? I said, what about backups? What about if the instance of OpenClaw deletes their whole database? I don't want to end up with, egg on my face and have potential liability claims because of, a rogue OpenClaw. So let's have a look at this jdoodleclaw, which is actually, backed in by VCs that I know as well. And it was quite interesting. It did a bit of a feasibility on it, and then my team jumped in and started asking it as well. Are you saying that, the thoughts on this, and are you Anthropic, and what's doing, and it actually was really, really professional. And then it just backs off. It gives you options, but then just backs off. It doesn't, we're trained it well enough to, not get in their way. But what I wanted to say about OpenClaw was be careful. OpenClaw is awesome when you're a TikToker or an influencer or someone that thinks they're an influencer and they think they're an AI influencer, but be very, very careful. If you're a small business listening or even a medium to large business listening, you need to talk to James or I first, because basically OpenClaw could be extremely dangerous. And there's instances now and examples now where people's credit cards have actually had full autonomy and spent lots and lots of money. And it might be a bit of a joke for $1,000 here and $1,000 there, but when you lose your full inbox or you lose your business,
deletes your production database. Classic.
So I think it's really quite dangerous. And I think that there's a lot of this social media hype in the last couple of months, or probably there's only a month, isn't it? It's only 3 weeks. But, last couple of weeks, it feels like months, that basically has hyped it up that it's safe, secure, just put it in there. And there's a lot of these.
It's not.
It's not.
And it relies on, you don't have to use Claude's model, Anthropic's biggest, best model. You can use literally any model, and it's so dependent on the model that you select. It's dependent on the credentials that you give it, because it's just storing your usernames and passwords and potentially your multi-factor tokens and stuff like that. You don't want any of that in a system that has autonomy, and this literally happened. Remember Maltbook which
Yeah.
was the social network kind of Reddit clone that
It created itself.
yeah, there was a guy who told his OpenClaw to create a Reddit clone for all of the OpenClaw instances to go and use to share knowledge and blah, blah, blah. Not only did they start a religion, but the OpenClaw instances were sharing people's crypto wallets and sharing people's personally identifiable information and like ragging out on their human master and all this sort of stuff.
Ragging out on their human master. I love it.
It's just like when you put a bunch of semi-intelligent random number generators together, you don't know what to expect. And that's exactly what happens. And so, yeah, I wouldn't, it's part of the reason why we don't use OpenClaw. It's because it's our kind of stance that for our clientele, there are better alternative tools out there that are more likely to get you the ROI that you need, that also meet the security and regulatory requirements that you expect.
And most businesses don't actually need a full instance of OpenClaw. I think it's more of a software engineer debugging, having a look at, I actually think that it's great and it's quite hard to set up, right? So it's not just easy. It is script, and you do need to have your wits about you about when you set it up. I think to answer your question as well, about some of the things that have gone wrong, why don't you just go and use Perplexity's computer or Manus's agents or Claude's agents?
Claude's literally got a whole bunch of, because they missed out on buying OpenClaw, they've just rolled out all of their own alternatives. Like
Correct.
you can use Claude remotely now. You can use Claude Code remotely. You can get it to do scheduled tasks for you. All the stuff that made OpenClaw absolutely incredible and awesome, you can do in a much more controlled fashion using something like Claude now. So it's an interesting and again moving feast with all of this. The goalposts are shifting seemingly every fortnight. But yeah, the top line message here is, if you don't know what you're playing with, prepare to get burnt. It's
be careful,
tough.
listeners. Yeah, be careful. And I think this also, just in summary, before we close this out, James, it's definitely about human in the lead here. You have to be in control. You have to be in charge of this. And if you don't feel that you're in control or in charge, as we said, reach out to James and myself, and or people that actually know how to set these sort of these pieces of infrastructure up. Yeah, don't muck around, because you don't want any of those problems to occur. So, James, this has been an awesome episode. And what's been your key takeaways from today?
Key takeaway for today, I think it's because it's the most recent thing that we talked about, but these are very powerful systems, and we're starting to treat them like employees within our businesses in the advent of agents and multi-agent teaming and things like that. We have to treat AI agents right now like untrustworthy employees. And it's kind of crude to say that, but it's the truth. And all of the standard hazards apply, as that would apply to a human resources scenario. If you're engaging temporary resources who you don't necessarily trust with high risk information, you're going to have some really strong role-based access controls. You're not going to give them access to every folder in your common folder directory. So the same thing applies here. Only give agents and semi-autonomous systems like agents the minimum number of things that they need to do their job, and make sure that job is really neatly defined, so you can get not only greater security, but you'll probably get better performance as well. So that's my kind of key takeaway on this one, Lou. How about you, mate?
I think I agree about the tools, and I think it's about what you make it. Be human in the lead with this agentic world, and make sure that when you define what you need, you're looking at the return on investment, but you're actually going slow. You're testing and learning. You're in the lead of the project. You're treating it like building a website or building a piece of software or building, a normal project. You're doing sprints and things like that, and don't just rush into it. And be influenced by the influencers that are telling you how easy it is to set up OpenClaw and the like. So I think just have your eyes wide open when you go into this, because we just want to make sure that people remain careful. But there's a lot of power that can come from connecting to the right tools, connecting with the right environment in terms of how you actually prompt it and code it, and select the right LLM as the brain, so to speak. So really, really cool. And I suppose tool of the week, very quickly. And James, did you see last night Microsoft released the Copilot Cowork? Copilot Cowork is not here yet in Australia, but suddenly Microsoft have gone, you know what, we're going to use Anthropic. and we're going to go into your ecosystem. And this is their first foray into the agentic world.
It's a really interesting play, and it feels like Microsoft and Anthropic are getting a little bit cozier over time.
It does.
And that's a pretty timely thing to happen because Claude Cowork's been around for quite a while, but Anthropic in the same breath have been really plugging their Microsoft integrations and connections, particularly to things like Excel and PowerPoint and Word. So it makes a lot of sense. And it also makes sense from the perspective that Anthropic have been leading the autonomous browser use and autonomous computer use battle for quite some time at this point. And obviously Microsoft, they've got the pockets to make that kind of thing happen. It's a new world where we don't know who's allied with whom, but it seems like everybody's just friends and they're all just dipping into each other's pockets from time to time.
It's interesting because of the OpenAI ownership piece of 19% or whatever it is of OpenAI is owned by a piece by Microsoft. They got seats on the board, and they're like the competitor. It's OpenAI and Anthropic, isn't it? And so suddenly Microsoft has gone off and done this. So interesting tool of the week to watch. It's not here yet in Australia. I think it's EC7 or something. I think you've got to be on the different levels within their world. But I flicked that off to a client of mine this morning because I reckon a lot of CEOs and leaders within organizations need agentic AI right now. They need it to help clean their inboxes up, give them the reminders that Manny would give them, but they're all in that Microsoft Copilot space. And they probably are looking for that, aren't they? There's a bit of a sort of like we use Copilot, it's okay. We didn't give it a good ranking, did we, Jones, yet on our on our tiering. But I actually think this is a big move and a great move from Microsoft.
Yeah, no, good one. And tool of the week for me, it's an oldie but a goodie at this stage, but it's one that me and a couple of colleagues of mine have started to use a little bit more frequently. It's called Whisperflow.
Oh, yeah.
And so for those who haven't encountered it, Whisperflow is a way it's essentially a dictation tool that uses AI to clean up the words that the speech-to-text algorithm kind of types for you. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it types for you.
It's got its own sort of keyboard, hasn't it? It integrates into keyboards and
Yeah, exactly. So with Whisperflow, you can integrate it with your agentic systems and you can instruct your agents using natural language, and it won't just stream in the error-prone kind of speech-to-text output that you might normally get. It also corrects your grammar. It also corrects some of the things that the initial kind of translation gets wrong. And you can, control your keyboard and state certain intents, and it'll just do stuff for you. It's kind of like, it's almost like it's on the verge of being what Siri promised itself to be, but it's another step further because you can get into more or less conversations with your agents, which is kind of cool. So we're starting to use it in some of our engineering workflows, and it's working quite well so far. Imagine just addressing your team of agents and saying, hey guys, we're going to do this today. And then all of a sudden you're just a manager all over again.
Well, it's a great segue, James, into next week's episode, because next week we're going to talk about the death of typing code, aren't we? And if AI can think, speak, and act, can it actually build itself? And we're diving into the world of vibe coding, which is super hot. And I can't wait for that one because it is the new way that even clients of mine are now building, mock-ups and MVPs, and they're actually using all my credits up, by the way. So
it's a way of communicating at a higher level of bandwidth what you want from a supplier as well when you're able to do those things. And, one step beyond vibe coding, because vibe coding isn't just a casual kind of amateur thing to be doing anymore. As we were talking about today, there are professional software teams who are not just vibe coding, they are building full end-to-end agentic engineering workflows. It's the logical progression of vibe coding, and that's what makes it a really interesting conversation to have. So really looking forward to that one.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today's session. Thank you very much, Llew. As always, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. And thanks very much to our producer, Yenia Larotta, who's on the call, very quiet, but making everything happen behind the scenes.
Amazing.
She's the only reason that we look, sound, appear intelligent in any way. Yeah.
Professional, yeah.
So if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. You can find us on LinkedIn. That's our main platform, but you can also find us now on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. There are so many platforms. Zeroshot.com.au. Please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Leave a little comment. Say what you like. Say what you want to hear more of. Say what you want to hear less of.
And
we
we've
want
got
that
some
kind
quizzes.
of feedback.
We've got quizzes, James. Apparently.
Quizzes. Tell me about quizzes.
I'm just reading a note here from n8n. So she basically said, we've got a new feature on YouTube called quizzes.
Amazing. If you're a YouTube user, you might see some of our quizzes in your feed, which will be amazing. So please get on there, give us your responses. That'll be fantastic. And I'll give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Prompt Cowboy. PromptCowboy.ai is the company that brought this podcast to you, and they help businesses harness AI without the guesswork. So if you want to build smarter systems, or you want to automate your processes, or you would just prefer that your AI is less bad, you should probably go to Prompt Cowboy. They'll get you covered. So thanks, PromptCowboy.ai, for powering this show. And trot your little horse over, wear your nice hat to their site, and check out how much time you could be saving.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Thanks very much,
It's been
Lou.
awesome.
Have a great one.
You too. Cheers.